it's Olivia from Girlybunches, and in this week's video I'm going to be making this lovely little scrubby. So this scrubby could be used for washing up, washing dishes and pans, or it could be used for cleaning yourself with. I think it's a great size for your face. Obviously you can't see me now, but I was just rubbing that up against my face. That doesn't really translate very well, does it, to you? But that's what I did, so I'll just do that at the back of my hand. So yeah, this is made with an acrylic. I'm going to do the video in a grey so that you can see where the stitches go, but this is the one I was making for myself, so I did it in these pretty colours here, and I will show you how this is done. It's not my pattern, I found it on Pinterest, so I will put in the link in the description box down below, a link to where this pattern came from, so you can see the written version. The written version is written in US terms, so I've translated it into British terms for me because I am British, so this video is in British terms. So yeah, I've done this in acrylic, which is sort of quite nice for pots and pans because it's mildly abrasive, which means it's not going to scratch or make scratch marks in your pots and pans, but will be strong enough to remove it. It's certainly not as tough as a Brillo pad or a wire brush, but it definitely will. You'll be surprised actually how good these things are. You could definitely do this in a cotton, and that would be a nice gift for somebody. You could make them a nice face scrubby or make one for yourself, and yeah, just quite a versatile little thing, and it looks really cute too. I think it's got this sort of nice ridged pattern to it. So I will get on and show you how this is made. Okay, so I've started off now with a chain of 21. So I've left a long tail here, a bit longer than I normally would, because we're going to need that at the end to pull through the work and pull it up into a little pouch. I'm going to show you at the end, that'll make more sense, but you need to leave yourself a fairly decent tail. So I've probably left myself there probably 1, 2, 3, probably about 8 or 9 inches there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to skip that first stitch there, and into the second one long here I am going to do 2 double crochets. So you may know that as a single, so we're just going in, grab the yarn and pull it through, and grab the yarn, pull through those 2 loops, and again into that same stitch we're going to do that again. And you may know that as a single crochet, but I'm British, so I call that a double. It's the same stitch, we just call it different names depending where you're from or where you learnt crochet. And I've got a video linked up here and in the description box down below explaining the differences, just in case you didn't know there was one. And okay, so now we're going to carry on. So we've done 2 stitches there, so that's 1, 2, and we should now do 1 double crochet into each of these stitches, these chains, along until we get to the last 2. Okay, so I'll probably speed this up a little bit, but this is a pattern that you are going to, where it is very simple, you are going to have to keep a track of how many stitches that you've worked all the way along. So I'm doing my 1 double crochet into each of the chains, and I started off with 21 stitches, but I didn't work into the first chain, I worked into the second chain from the hook. So now I am down to 20 stitches, so I should have 20 stitches all the way across consistently for each of the rows that I'm going to do. So as you remember, I did 2 double crochets into that first stitch. So now I've got to here, and I've got to my last 2 stitches. So I've got 19 stitches all the way across here. So remember I said we're going to need 20 stitches. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to crochet the last 2 stitches as a decrease or together. So I've put the hook through the chain, and I haven't finished the stitch, and I'm going to put the hook through the next stitch, which is my last stitch, and I pull the yarn through, and then I'm going to pull the yarn through all 3 of those loops. And what that does is that it then joins those 2 stitches together and leaves you with 1 loop on the top, which indicates that it's 1 stitch now. So you've decreased the row by 1 stitch. So we increase the row by 1 stitch by doing 2 double crochets at the beginning, and here we've reduced it by 1. So if I count them all along now, I will still have 20 stitches. I hope that's making sense. Okay, so that's our first row. So the rows that are repeated in this pattern are the second and third row. So we've got this first one out the way, and we're going to chain one and turn the work around. The next thing we need to remember about this pattern is that we're only going to work into the back loops. So if you look down at the top of your crochet work, you see you've got 2 loops here, and you would normally work through both of them like that. Well, this is called the back loop and this is called the front loop, and you may see that written in some of the patterns that it says work in the back loops or the front loops only. So that's what that means. We're going to work in that back loop only. We're not going to pick up both of those loops. So we joined 2 stitches together at this end, and when you've done that at one end, you need to start doing that with your next row. So we join 2 together, so we start off by joining 2 together on this row. So you want to go down, pick up the yarn, and then into the next stitch along, into that back loop, you go down and pick up the yarn, and we're joining these 2 together, so we're going to put the yarn over and pull it through all 3 loops. Now you'll see now you've not got a straight edge, you've got a slanted edge, and that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. And again, now we're just going to work into the back loops, doing a double crochet all the way along until we get to the last stitch. So I'll speed this up again, and the reason that we work into the back loop is that we get this nice ridge appearance coming up. So keep track of the number of stitches that you've got. You want to make sure you keep it at 20 or whatever the number it is that you decided to go with. It doesn't matter if it's odd or even, it will just be one less the number of the chains that you started off with. And this end we need to increase. So I've gone now, done my 18th stitch, and now we're going to do 2 double crochets into that last stitch on the end there, and that will bring our tally back up to 20 stitches. Because when we decreased one at the end here, we reduced the number of stitches, and now we've put that back by increasing it. So this end, let me just see if I can lay that down. See, that end isn't going straight, it's going that way, that's perfect. And this end isn't going straight, it's going that way, and that's perfect too. So we always want to make sure this is expanding and this end is always decreasing. So I'm going to do my 3rd round now, and I'm going to chain 1, turn the work around, and again we're going to work into the back loops, but this time I'm going to do 2 stitches, so 2 double crochets into that back loop. So there's 1 and there's 2. So we're increasing that edge, and that makes it go out that way, and that's perfect. Now I'm going to do 1 double crochet all the way to the end, and then when I get to my last 2 stitches I'm going to stop, because what I want to do is do those 2 stitches together. So I put the yarn through, grab the yarn, put the hook through, and grab the yarn, and then again yarn over and pull that through all 3 loops. And as you can see, we're starting to get that ridge effect and the slanted edges. We've done our 2nd and 3rd row now, and that basically gets repeated all the way through. So just I would slip stitch, and because I finished with 2 together, I would start with 2 together. So into that one and then the next one, and join those 2 together, and then when I get to the other end I would increase by 2. So when I turn around, because I finished with an increase of 2, I would start with an increase of 2 for the 5th round, for the 5th row, and you just keep repeating that process. And this is where now the magic of planning, which I don't do very often, so I'm quite proud of it and I'm allowed to show off. I have already finished this piece of work here. So you're aiming to do 22 rows altogether, because you want to end up with, because you're just repeating the second and third row for another 21 times, so you end up with 22 rows altogether. And what you want to do is end up with a tail end at either point, so you don't want two tail ends on one side. So you can make this as long as you want, but you do need to make sure that you've got a nice long tail on either end. Okay, so to assemble your scrubby, what you need to do is put your two edges together, and I would crochet them together or sew them together. It's entirely up to you, and I'm just going to do that now. Just going to sew those together, and you would normally use the tail ends to do that with, but we're going to use those tail ends to actually turn this into a round scrubby, and we're just sewing that together now, and we've made that a nice tube. So I'm just going to tie my end here with this tail end that I've got going on here. So there we go, we've got our tube, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take these long tail ends, put that on a needle because it'll be easier, and when I find my beginning part, I'm just going to weave it in and out of these sort of holes that you've got here, which are where you did your chains at the beginning of each row, like this, until you get back round to the beginning. And then if you pull that nice and tight, you can see it pulls up nicely, and it's making that nice round shape. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that one. I would sew that in, but I just want to show you the other end. And this is why you need to leave a nice long tail. I'll turn that around and go around this way. And you just weave that in and out. Nice long running stitch. And we get back round to the beginning again, and again you're going to pull that nice and tight like that, and now you've made your scrubby, and you just push it down, push those two centre parts down, and there you go. So now what you would just do is take these ends that we've left to sew up the ends, those edges, pull those edges tight with, and then just pull it nice and tight as you can, and maybe you utilise that tail end there to make a nice tight double knot, and then you can sew in those ends into your fabric. And I've just done a video on how to sew in ends, so if you need any help with that, then just click on that link up in the description box, or that eye up in the corner, and get a detailed video on how I sew in my ends. So I'll just do that and I'll come back. And there we go, we've got a nice little pot scrubby there, which would be great for, you know, getting into our pots and pans that we, you know, hopefully still some of us wash up. We don't leave for the dishwasher. Not everything can go in the dishwasher. And again, it would be nice for skin too. Again, the link in the description box to where I found the pattern for this. These are quite popular on the internet, so I'm sure you've seen them, but this is how you do them. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. I would love a thumbs up if you did, and if you haven't subscribed, why not hit that subscribe button down there, and you will get a notification of when I release a video, which is every weekend. And yeah, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments box down below. I might not reply straight away, but I definitely will see them, and I definitely will reply when I have a few moments to spare. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. from Girlybunches, and in this week's video I'm going to be showing you how I made this crochet heart chain, a sort of